Hey there, it is Matt from 1000X Leads here, and this is going to be a video about what I do, and I'm going to call this video the peak performance stack for entrepreneurs, like without going too serious, because most people don't want to get into, those hyper optimizations and biohacking, all that kind of stuff, but we want to get as much benefit as possible because we need to be healthy, we need to have energy, we need to have our performance as good as possible so that we can make as much money as we possibly can make. So what I've done here is I've broken it down into the sleep stack, the health stack, and then kind of the work stack. So it's not really just a video about health, but it's a video about like what I think you should try, and you can be the judge if it works or not. Just give it a chance. I'm not going to cite any studies here or anything like that. You trying it and succeeding or not succeeding with it is going to be all the proof you need one way or the other, in my opinion. So I'm going to get into it. So what I have for the sleep stack, because a lot of people are going to be, and including myself many times, especially in the last 60 days, that was kind of the inspiration for this video, is they neglect their sleep, or they just have low quality sleep, or all of that kind of stuff. So what I have here is three main points that I do to, previous to these 60 days, and I've gotten back to it in the last 5 or 6 days, is what we want to do is the first thing, if we want to have a great sleep, which basically makes every single thing better, mentally, physically, emotionally, absolutely everything better. And we want to have a better sleep in terms of the length of the sleep, but also the quality of the sleep. So I have 3 main categories. The first thing I always do is have an alarm at 8 p.m. And when that alarm happens, I turn my phone off or put it away to get ready for bed. And then I put it out of reach so I can't easily just grab it. And this, of course, is only going to work if you follow through with it. But it's going to be such a good thing to kind of get you mentally prepared for bed so you can actually get to bed on time. And then another thing that I do is install Flux, which is it's going to change the color temperature of your computer and your phone if you have it on your phone, the display of that. So as it gets kind of approaching bedtime, it goes to much warmer colors where, that is going to not have as much of that blue light going into your mind that kind of prevents melatonin and then prevents you from sleeping if you want to get really into it. So alarm at 8, turn the phone off, put it out of reach. This is the thing that we're getting ready for bed now. And I have Flux also that will just do that automatically. To get a better sleep, this is the stuff that I've been doing, and it makes I feel like I've been getting 2 to 3 times as good sleep when I do this. First thing I do is mouth tape. So I don't naturally breathe through my nose at night. So a few years ago, I started, doing the mouth tape thing. And you don't have to buy hostage tape or something very expensive. I found that this tape is one of the best that I've done, and it's cheap. It, it's not hard on your mouth, and it's just going to be good enough, in my opinion. Next thing I do is have nasal strip and earplugs. I just use these Breathe Right ones, even if you can breathe through your nose, and I kind of have trouble breathing through my nose. I think it's just going to be so much better than not doing it at all, just to get that extra oxygen. Because you want to be able to breathe through your nose, especially at night, because your nose filters air much better than your mouth. You're less likely to get sick. Your kind of facial structure completely changes, whether you go from your nose or from your mouth and all that kind of stuff. The next thing I always recommend is earplugs, and pretty much any earplugs are going to do. Get some cheap ones that have a lot. You want to have a cold room as opposed to a warm one with blackout blinds, and I always really like this white noise machine. I'm sure there's a lot of different options, but I like this just because I live near a busy street and I'm always traveling as well. So if there's just a bunch of random tourist stuff or loud noises or whatever, this kind of just drowns it all out. And on a deeper level, I think that I might, naturally, kind of like a Pavlov thing, where when I hear the sound that my white noise machine makes, okay, that's the time for sleep, and it makes it easier to fall asleep. Not sure if that's actually true or not, but it kind of feels like it. And then just kind of any blackout blinds will do. If you don't have how would you say, a rod or something, You can get the ones that kind of stick on. They're also pretty good. But that's what I always do. So I want to get to bed as early as possible and set myself up for the best sleep. And then what I do is I always go to bed at the same time and then never wake up with an alarm. It's kind of like instead of a wake up time, you have a go to bed time with the same kind of devotion to it. So for me, that's 10 p.m. And then I wake up when I wake up. If that's 4, if that's 5, if that's 6, if that's 7, if that's 8, if that's 10, whatever. If you're waking up really late, it's probably because you really needed some extra sleep. And I found that's just so much more enjoyable than an alarm making a horrific sound and just, waking you up in a state of panic. And it's just a lot better results for me. So this sleep stack is kind of very cheap, I would say. It's going to be maybe $100 if you have to buy the blackout blinds. If not, it's going to be 40 maybe. And it's going to double or triple the quality of your sleep, overnight. And even if you don't sleep longer, that's going to be really good. For the health stack, I divided it into 5 main categories. So the first one is going to be food. The first thing I have here is if you want to be what I would say optimal performance, you should be anywhere between 10 and 20% body fat. Anything less is going to be worse. Anything more is not going to be optimal either. And I always say not 200 grams of protein because that's going to depend on what size you are. But for me, always 200 grams of protein just because I'm trying to build as much muscle as possible, or at the very least not lose any muscle. And I'm a big believer, and I just started doing that this year, in tracking your food. I feel like if you watch one of my videos, we always say that we should work with a timer, and I'm going to get into that later in this video, but this is kind of the exact opposite of that, where people always overestimate how many hours they actually work, and they underestimate how many calories they eat. If you're not in the 10 to 20% body fat range, and just, it's very easy to tell, like, should be self-evident. I really think that you should track your food. There's a lot of decent apps out there that are free where you can just scan the barcode and stuff and it will put in the stuff for you, and you can save your foods and you can do all that. Once you get into it, it's one of those things that doesn't take much time or effort, kind of actually enjoyable. And it's going to tell you, whether you're getting a good amount of protein, but it's also going to get you to that 10 to 20% body fat range if you're not in that, whether you're currently too fat or you're actually underweight and not in that range. It's just very important to track. I believe in tracking everything in business, and that goes over to tracking the food. I also believe in tracking the weight every day, just, for fluctuations. If, again, a lot of people don't even know how much they weigh, and it's very easy to eat 500 extra calories per day for 6 months, and all of a sudden you're weighing 30 pounds heavier. And then also taking a progress picture every day, because alongside the tracking the calories, alongside the weighing, if you see a picture and you can see yourself over time, that's, they say a picture is worth 1,000 words of scaring yourself into getting back to that 10 to 20% body fat range. Second one I have here is exercise. The very best habit that I've ever figured out to kind of make me work more and do better work and be more focused is right when I get out of bed in the morning, go down to whatever building I'm in, whether that's home or on the road, and go on the treadmill for 20 minutes. I do it at 12% incline and 3 miles per hour because I found out like that's enough to make you sweat, and it's like pretty good workout, but it's not so tough like running would be, where you're like, oh, okay, I don't want to do this. I'm just going to go back to bed. It's kind of low friction, but still meaningful in my experience. I really think that 10 minutes of mobility, and this is not stretching, this is not anything but actual mobility, is so important, because sitting at the desk all day, not really doing much besides clicking buttons, is going to really take a toll on your body. So I always try a routine from Knees Over Toes guy. If you've never heard of him, it's free YouTube channel, very, very good. It's really helped me a lot with bad knees and a bad back. And now I'm kind of like, feel 10 years younger. I'm not that old to begin with, but it's just so good, I think, to have in there. So what I do is, the 20 minutes on the treadmill followed by the 10 minutes mobility, and then just straight to work after that. You don't need a 3-hour morning routine, but I don't agree with the people who say you should just get up and start working either. I don't think, the truth of the matter for most things is somewhere in the middle. And then I'll do 4 workouts per week with weights. I follow Mike Mentzer's method, which is like the heavy duty one where you basically go as hard as you can with really low volume and get it done in 25 to 30 minutes. That's been the best results for me in terms of consistency, just muscle gain, as well as kind of fitting that in the schedule, because we can't be working out for an hour and a half or 2 hours in the middle of the day. We're running an agency, we're running a business, we're not dedicating our life to bodybuilding. That's what works best for me. And then I believe in combat sports 3 times per week. For me, that's Muay Thai. Good calorie burn, a good workout, but I also found it's a very good increase in confidence and all that kind of stuff. Maybe you don't want to get in fights in real life, and you probably shouldn't, but knowing that you could and defend yourself and do well, I think that's a very good thing that carries through to actual everything in life. The next I have is supplements. So what I would recommend is that you input your, diet into ChatGPT. Like, what do I normally eat? If I'm eating the same thing almost every day, like, what do I normally eat? And say, what nutrients am I going to miss with this? And it's going to, take, and show you, here's all the stuff that you're going to miss. And then you can basically get supplements or vitamins to address that. If you know you're going to eat X, Y, and Z every day, and you could just ask ChatGPT, you don't need a nutritionist, or you don't need to wonder. And I always like to get gummies just because, maybe I am a small child and they're just a lot tastier. But when you're going to take quite a few different supplements, and if you are, just having them in gummies makes them enjoyable to eat. And it's the same thing, arguably more absorption than capsules. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. So what I am taking based on my diet right now is vitamin D plus K, vitamin B12, vitamin C, zinc, magnesium, selenium, and I take L-arginine and L-citrulline as well. So I'm not going to tell you to take any of these, but that's what I'm taking right now. And based on my blood work, it's just made such a big difference, and we're going to get to that in a minute. But these are very universal vitamins that I think almost everybody could be taking. The next one is I have hormones, because we want to keep our hormones in check. We want to feel as, energetic as possible. We want to have our testosterone as high as possible, because, testosterone equals focus, and lack of testosterone is the opposite of that. I feel like a lot of people who complain about they can't focus should get their testosterone checked, like, really. So get a full hormone panel at least once every 6 months, or if funds and money are not an issue, you can go even more than that and get everything. But we want to increase the testosterone because we want to look better with more muscle, but mostly for that focus and that drive and that motivation. So we want to get our testosterone checked, our prolactin checked, our E2, which is basically estrogen or estradiol, checked. We want to get our SHBG, our sex hormone binding globulin. Hopefully that's how you say that, checked, because that's going to affect your testosterone. A lot of people get their testosterone like total checked, and that's good, of course, but if you have a sex hormone binding globulin and that's very high, it's going to basically bind to that testosterone and make it useless. So we want to get that checked too. We want to get our luteinizing hormone, our I don't know how to say that. We're just going to say get that checked. Our progesterone, our thyroid stimulating hormone, our follicle stimulating hormone, and our cortisol. And these are going to tell you basically, if you can't focus, like, these are going to be an indication on why. And then you can put these in ChatGPT and say, these are high, like, what do you recommend, or what supplement should I be taking? And you're going to be basically 90% of the way there in terms of a nutritionist would tell you. The next is a lifestyle. So the first thing you want to do is download the Focus Me app. And this is just going to be blocking stuff that you want it to block on your phone and computer. It's pretty good. It's costs money, but it's not cheap. It's $50 a year or something like that. And what you're going to do with it is you're going to block YouTube, you're going to block streaming, you're going to not listen to music except when you're working out. You're going to block politics. Oops, I should say news. You're going to block news, and you're going to block porn from it. All of these things, I wouldn't say, everybody has their hobbies and interests, but anything that's going to distract you, and anything, more importantly, anything that's going to take you out of the reality that is your own life, like when you're listening to music, when you're watching a TV show, when you're watching YouTube, you're not thinking about your own life. And that's, if you believe in the fact that, attention determines the reality, and you're just watching some Rome on HBO, pretending you're a Roman soldier instead of thinking about how you're going to fix your own life. Not necessarily a good thing. And Focus Me is going to do that. And yes, I, of course, pretend I'm a Viking Raider until I just blocked it. And my life has immeasurably improved since then. The final thing will be the work stack. So I have 3 things here: setup, system, and schedule. So we have our phone off and away, as in we cannot reach it. I do the same thing with my work that I do with sleep, where I have mouth tape, just a little piece, just to ensure that I breathe through my nose, because it's very easy. I'm not wearing it right now because I have to talk, and you wouldn't you wouldn't do it on calls or anything, but just make sure you nose breathe. And if you want to do a thing, it's called Breathe by James Nestor, I believe, or Breath. This is a very good book that will kind of convince you of what I'm saying if you doubt it or you think it's not important. Very, very important stuff. Train yourself to nostril breathe. I also have earplugs and, earplugs. Or I listen to the same song on repeat. I know I said no music, but if you really must, listen to the same song on repeat so it's just stable the entire time. No strips. Guess I could have held them up to prove that I'm doing it. But we want to not have our phone, and we want to have our breathing as good as possible. Not too complicated. The next thing I have here is system. So I always work with a to-do list, and that's so important. If you just wake up and you have no idea what you're really going to be doing for the day, not going to get much done. The next thing I have is a timer, which I always tell people to do. So basically a timer, we could either have it on the computer like this, and we want to set it for an hour at a time, because if you can't focus for an hour, you're not going to make it, and it's easy enough to train yourself to do so. Once that's done, I submit a work form like this, and basically what hour of the day it was in terms of work, what did I do, and what's my number 1 goal, and then Google Form notifications or something like that. I have this app here, or this Chrome extension. No, it's an app that is inside the forms. And what it does is I have a bunch of emails there, and the top 5, top 10 most important people in my life, every time I submit the form, it sends an email to them and just kind of holds me accountable and shows them that I'm actually working. Girlfriend, mom, dad, best friends, that kind of stuff, business partners. And I think it's a very good touch where you're going to train them to expect it. And if, they don't see it, they're going to hold you accountable. It's kind of like shaming yourself publicly into working hard. The final thing that I have is the schedule. So I always start my morning with some momentum building tasks, 10 to 15 minutes. Reply to this, do these things. Maybe 5 to 10 tasks that you can do in 30 seconds to a minute each, and just, start knocking off things with the to-do list and building that momentum so that you can spend the first 4 hours of your day on acquisition. That's the key to business, in my opinion. First 4 hours of the day on acquisition, whether that's cold outreach, whether that's content, whether that's ads or partnerships. That's what you got to do. And if you don't, you're not really going to get very far. So I hope you liked my system. I view this as the 80-20 rule, where this is the stuff that you're going to get the best performance possible without dedicating your whole life to it. If you like this video, like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.